She used to do the daily question. That's the only time I get participation points. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know anything else. I know me. That's,
All right. Hello, how are we doing? Good? All right. Oh, there's a lot. Okay. How did yesterday go? Once I figured out the link, I knew something was gonna go wrong. That's why I check my email frequently. We are gonna have time tomorrow to go back in and make any adjustments. Are there any questions up to this point? No? How was the sub, okay? You never know who you're gonna get these days. All right? I mean, you can run the show without an adult here, technically. Okay, so what we're going to be doing today is we are going to, our objective is to continue into our civil rights movement lecture. We're going to learn more of the story of kind of this process of the civil rights movement. So let's get out our notes that we started. This morning with my ambassadors for their rehearsal, and I'm still cold inside my bones. It's gonna be nice today though, nice and warm. Okay, we're revisiting our lecture and kind of where we wanted to process, if you remember, because it was a while ago now, because we stopped at the Freedom Riders, right? And we learned about them and the impact that they made. And the other thing that I want us to remember is that part of, the objective within the civil rights movement is to peel back this Supreme Court legal precedent of Plessy versus Ferguson, right? And we know that the first place this happened was the Brown versus the Board of Education, and then we see it in the busing systems, as we talked about, and that was the challenge for the Freedom Riders, was to kind of expose the fact that no one was listening to what the Supreme Court, the top court in the nation, had to say. Well, this not listening is going to continue even when it comes to education. We know that Brown versus Board of Education established separate but equals in schools is not constitutional. And we saw some, I told you there was some resistance. We saw some resistance with the Little Rock 9 as our example. And this resistance is going to continue even at the college level. And one of the people that we're going to be meeting, who's going to challenge who's gonna challenge this is going to be James Meredith. He's gonna win a federal court case that's gonna allow him to enroll in the University of Mississippi. Now notice our dates. I know for your Google site work yesterday, you saw, you experienced kind of a variety of kind of dates within the timeline. So hopefully you recognize the time frame of your specific person or event, etc. Because kind of that, again, that timeline in history matters. And we're going to see the governor of Mississippi refuse to let him register. So again, we're going to be seeing a similar pattern. And this is a pattern I talked to you about kind of at the very beginning. Him simply wanting to register to attend a school, right, is going to be met with resistance in some way. Oftentimes the resistance leads to some sort of chaos, which gets the attention of typically whom? Who do you want to get the attention of? Or who usually will catch attention? Reza? Government. The government, right? Maybe specifically the president or somebody within the federal government, right? So we're going to see that a couple times. We've already seen it, we're going to see it again. So that pattern, right? His form of kind of that we talked about nonviolent resistance or nonviolent protest. He's simply trying to go to school is going to be met with resistance. Chaos in some sort will erupt and it will get the attention from the top. So we see that in this example. Kennedy, who president at the time, notice the date, will have to send in federal marshals to escort him to actually be able to register. Okay, so we're going to watch actually a little video about this. Why is it doing that? Give me a second.
James H. Meredith is formally enrolled at the University of Mississippi, ending one chapter in the federal government's efforts to desegregate the university. The town of Oxford is an armed camp, following riots that accompanied the registration of the first Negro in the university's 118-year history. Much of this film record was destroyed when our cameraman, Gordon Yoder, was attacked, but he did salvage pictures of Governor Ross Barnett at the scene. The governor fought the court order long and bitterly before modifying his stand, saying Mississippi was overpowered by the federal government. President Kennedy appealed to the students and to the people of the state to comply peacefully with the law and bring the crisis to an end. Even as he talked, riots were breaking out in Oxford.
Americans are free and sure to disagree with the law, but not to disobey it. For any government of laws and not of men, no man, however prominent or powerful, and no mob, however unruly or boisterous, is entitled to defy a court of law. If this country should ever reach the point where any man or group of men, by force or threat of force, could long deny the commands of our court and our Constitution, then no law would stand free from doubt. No judge would be sure of his writ, and no citizen would be safe from his neighbors.
Nearly 6,000 troops patrol Oxford to maintain order, and arrests mount to more than 200 as smaller disturbances erupt the next day. Former Major General Edwin Walker, who came here from his home in Texas, is put under arrest and held in high bail on charges of inciting insurrection. He was flown to a federal prison hospital as relative calm settled on the town in the greatest crisis the South has faced since the Civil War.
Okay, so we see Kennedy stepping in, and we're going to see kind of him be featured later in this lecture, making the speech that we've heard part of before.
Without a six-piece band, you'd be amazed at that.
Okay, because again, he, as we know, was hesitant within kind of to step up and do something about kind of civil rights early on, but as we know and as we saw with the example of the Freedom Riders video, we will see him take more of a stand as we see him kind of chiming in and basically saying, hey, you gotta listen to this legal precedent that's been established. You can't just ignore it. Do you think it's just gonna stop there? Everyone's gonna be like, all right, he told Mississippi what's up and made that governor kind of step aside. Do you think that's gonna mean that every other college, especially in the South, is gonna follow suit? No, right? Caleb's like, no, you're not tricking me in that question, right? Of course, we're gonna see, unfortunately, even more resistance, as we see in other examples. So this is gonna bring us to the University of Alabama. George Wallace, as you hopefully maybe remember from our Freedom Riders video, is the governor of Alabama, and he is a very, very racist man. You're gonna see it in the video I'm showing you today, him say this, and I don't remember if it was in the Freedom Riders video, but he's gonna be known as quoting, saying, segregation now, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever. So when you're thinking, right, about these, remember we talked about the types of segregation. Segregation by law and segregation by custom and belief, right? And that's what we are fighting. How do we get people to change their minds if this is how he sees society? And this is not like, oh, he said this in an interview. He said this in a speech to a wide audience of people, giving you insight as to kind of how deep these beliefs are, right? This is the governor of the state. So now at the University of Alabama, we're going to see two students, Vivian Malone and James H. Hood, try to register for class in June of 1963. So notice we went from 62, Kennedy had to step in and be like, hey, let them register. This is what has been decided in the courts, so you must kind of follow suit. Right? A whole year later, we're still seeing the same issues. So what we're going to see is we see in this photo here, and we're going to watch part of a documentary that's going to show this kind of play out because it's very interesting to kind of see the inside of kind of how this event happened. But here he is literally standing in front of the door trying to refuse entry to these two students simply because they're black. Right? So the part of the documentary that we're going to actually watch, we'll see Kennedy is going to have to step in again because another governor again is not following suit. And we'll see the National Guard come in and he will finally step aside. So one of, obviously we all like Netflix, but you probably watch different things than I watch. And one of my favorite documentaries that is on Netflix and has been for a while is Bobby Kennedy for President. Now somebody tell me who Bobby Kennedy is. He's come up in class before. He was a main player in the Freedom Riders. Who's Bobby Kennedy? Henry?
Was he the Attorney General?
He was the Attorney General. Oh my God, I said it backwards. Attorney General. Where's my pen? Was it this class where we talked about what the Attorney General is? What role do they play? I can't remember if it was first or second period. What does the Attorney General do? Do we know what their role is? What is their role? Probably is that a hand?
They're basically just like the most powerful lawyer in the United States.
Yeah, look at it as the top lawyer of the land, right? And in this scenario, right, we know that it's his brother, JFK's brother, who's stepping in as this role of Attorney General. It's why we saw him in the Freedom Riders video, right? As the lawyer, we're dealing with legal precedent of the Supreme Court. And it's part of his job to make sure that that legal precedent by the Supreme Court is carried out through the states. So that's kind of his role within this. So when we see this violation of, federal laws and Supreme Court precedent, he's the main player, right? He's also significant because